night, Michael. How's it going?
Very good. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you. So I want to start with kind of the idea for the CGI monkey. I know you had began your career in visual effects. So was the idea of including a large amount of CGI part of the process from the very beginning, or did it come as you're developing the script?
No, I was definitely there from the beginning, 100%. Just like, that was the only thing that interested me in terms of telling this story. And I wouldn't have made the film if I didn't come up with a way in
Mhm.
that I thought was kind of going to be more powerful or more meaningful.
And was Robbie immediately sold on the monkey, or did it take a little bit of?
The weird thing was he was sold within 2 seconds. I said to him, "Oh, if you're an animal, how would you see yourself?" And he said, "Definitely a lion." And with a big grin on his face. And I was like, really? And he was like, nah, more a monkey, a cheeky monkey. And I was like, yeah, 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 great. And then I pitched him the idea, and he was like, literally could not have been more on board. He was like, amazing. It was just much harder convincing everybody else. Literally everybody else was more difficult than Rob.
I kind of see that because the music biopic genre, I feel like it struggles from time to time because movies are afraid to really go in and be honest about the subject. But Better Man, I feel like, is just so fearless in that regard. So do you feel like your compassion and your fearlessness surrounding Robbie and his life allowed for a vulnerability that is kind of rare in this genre?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because people think that the monkey is what makes the film unique, but I actually think what makes the film really human is how flawed and honest and raw the story is. I think that it's very hard for an audience to relate to the godlike rock star that is perfect because that's just not something that you or I know about.
Mhm.
You know, what you can relate to is someone who has moments of doubt and self-loathing and is critical of themselves and has insecurities and says things that they wish they didn't and does things that they regret and that all those things I can relate to.
Mhm.
And I think it makes for a really human story. And and again, a credit to Rob for letting us, show scenes where he just comes off really unlikable, and you just go, I mean, I was sure he was going to cut scenes from the film when he watched it, and because it's one thing to read it on the page, right?
Mhm.
And imagine whatever version of the film in his head he imagined when he read it. I mean, it's very confronting to sit in a cinema screen, with it playing large on a screen. Um, and to his credit, he didn't cut a single shot from this film.
Wow.
Like not one, not a one shot did he say, I think it'd be better if you didn't put that in. Which I think is amazing. I think it really is amazing.
Speaking of amazing, the standout is obviously the Rock DJ sequence. I was watching at home and I immediately rewound it and just started again because it's so fun. But it's my understanding that you were delayed 5 months in shooting this because of the Queen's passing. So can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that waiting period and then if anything changed in the development of that scene because of the waiting period?
So it's, those blessings in disguise. It was the worst thing ever at the time. And obviously, we lost all that money and, because insurance doesn't cover the death of the Queen. So it was a very dark time with a lot of people saying, just cut the number.
Hmm.
But fortunately, we just kept fighting for it. And fortunately, we'd shot a rehearsal the week leading up to um, the shoot because obviously we had to rehearse somewhere other than Regent Street. And the rehearsal was pretty compelling. In that you kind of go, wow, like
Yeah.
if you can, it's all in a studio with, Regent Street taped out on the ground with, here's the rubbish bin and here's the bus stop and everything. But you can sort of picture in your head, oh, wow, if you can actually translate this to Regent Street, that's going to be a moment. So I think if we didn't have that rehearsal, there's no way we ever would have been able to convince people to let us, shoot it, particularly as it pushed the delivery of the film back by 5 months. But all of that said, um, we did use the time to rework
Mm.
some of the choreography um, and to rework The mobility scooters, and the boys got more practice on the pogo sticks, which became apparent that we really needed more practice on the pogo sticks when we were in rehearsal. So yeah, so blessing in disguise.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about the film is how seamlessly all of the musical numbers happen and how it does not feel like it's a jukebox musical at all. So did you kind of approach it knowing that a large majority of the audience wouldn't know Robbie Williams as a singer and like that kind of helped you figure out where each of these songs are going to go? Like, did you feel that burden of having to really introduce him to mostly Americans who did not know much about him?
No, actually, I really love the audience that don't know who Robbie Williams is. They sort of meet the film like it's an original musical,
Hmm.
and I think that's really powerful because it's sort of a blessing and a curse when you do a musical where people know the songs. They've already got their own attachment to those songs. They've all got moments of memories of like, oh, I remember that song when I was at this stage of my life. So they've sort of already got a context. And what you're trying to do narratively is give them a new context and say, from this point forward, I would like this song to mean this. You know, I want when you hear rock DJ to think about people dancing down Regent Street. And I want when you hear She's the One to think of two people falling in love on a boat, you know. And so you're trying to give new context to something they've already got quite strong feelings towards.
Hmm.
If it's a new audience, they just, that's all they know, right?
Hmm.
So there's pros and cons of both. And the truth is, ultimately, all you got to do is make it work narratively. So the song choices were all based around us telling the story, getting to a moment, and going, what song emotionally or lyrically speaks to this? You know, his dad's leaving him for the first time. I want to feel real love. I mean, that is a very powerful statement for a little
Hmm.
7-year-old boy to make as he watches his dad go away. Um, uh, you know, meeting the girl of his dreams on a boat, she's the one, you know, spiraling out of control as he drives away from Take That, you know, Come Undone. Like,
Hmm.
you know, you sort of you're wanting to lean into these moments both emotionally and lyrically. And I always say, you know, that one should sing when words no longer suffice. And
Hmm.
so that is where you talk about how seamlessly you get in and out of music. My belief is that, you know, in the depths of despair, when you can't articulate it any other way, you break into song. And in those moments of absolute joy and euphoria, you break into song. And so I think that if narratively you're taking the audience up to those moments or down to those moments of emotional punch,
Hmm.
um, then when people sing, it doesn't feel like what I refer to as a needle drop. It doesn't feel like the record just starts singing and you're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Hmm.
Um, because I hate the needle drop. I hate musicals where you're like, oh, hey, why people just apropos of nothing, just stare out the window and start singing, you know?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I'm exactly the same boat, and that is what like really struck me with this. So it's your second musical, and you have another musical on the horizon. What from Better Man are you taking to your next film?
I mean, look, you learn so many lessons. Better Man is such the result of the lessons I learned on Showman, and
Mm.
whatever I do next is the lessons I learned from Better Man, and you just keep going. I mean, you know, you learn so much, and it's the good, it's the bad, it's leaning into things that you go, you know, I wish that was done better,
Mhm.
and you lean into the things where you go, wow, that really worked. Like that thing that I didn't get right on Showman, and I really got right this time. That's the way to get it right. That's the way to sort of look, and they can be tiny things. They can be really small things, but there's just so many lessons that you leave with. And I think as a filmmaker, it's just exciting. It's exciting just even to get the opportunity to make a film these days. I think it's such a battle for anyone to get a film together. I just have such incredible respect and admiration for anyone who actually manages to put a film together because you're just like, they are these impossible dreams, and you have to
Mhm.
rally so many people around that idea and make them, you know, feel as passionately as you do about bringing it to life. And so, yeah, a lot of lessons going on to the next thing.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. I truly love the film.
Thank you, Tina. So great to meet you.